Hello, Otafest listeners. I'm Angelo, and I'm here with Nancy and Jay.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Otafest podcast.
It's the Otafest podcast. You're listening to it. Welcome.
You're listening to it. And this is Otafest podcast in 2021. But Otafest 2022 early bird tickets are now available. Head to otafest.com for all of the details.
And this is a quick reminder that Otafest 2022 will be a 2-day event rather than our traditional 3-day event. In keeping the interests of everyone's health, we will be requiring that all attendees have masks and will be checking for vaccinations.
Man, so yesterday I was actually at the Donut Mill in Red Deer, and they were like, you wish to dine in, we must see the QR code. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? The little thing that I printed out like 4 weeks ago is no good anymore?
Oh, you
and
didn't
Dio
know?
looked at me like I was an alien,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, you have to have the QR code now. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
What?
man.
I legitimately didn't know, and so we just shuffled off to the side of the counter, and she showed me how to do it,
Nice.
Aw,
which was
that's
pretty
nice.
handy because I had to show my mom how to do it this morning.
They want your money.
Good.
So,
Well,
Oh, yeah,
I'm glad they're
absolutely.
being kind about it. They're not just like, just go figure your stuff out and come back when you do. You know?
true.
Exactly. But, yeah.
You should explain what a donut
Yesterday-
mill is.
Oh my God. Anybody who's in Calgary or Edmonton or the central Alberta area who doesn't know what the donut mill is has to right now drive over to Red Deer.
Immediately.
With the
because
QR code.
In Gasoline Alley on the west side of the highway, there is a windmill that makes donuts, and it's called, as you might have guessed, the Donut Mill.
Surprise!
And they make some of the best donuts in Alberta.
So
There's
I didn't
20
know
different
who they
flavors.
were. I didn't know.
Really?
I did not know. And I was
Have you-
mildly ashamed that I didn't know. So I went and I looked it up right when you mentioned it. And I was like, ooh, they have monthly specials.
They do.
And November's is chocolate peppermint. I was just like, I gotta
Yes.
go. I gotta go.
It
I
is
love
a-
chocolate peppermint.
Peppermint hot chocolate donut.
Is this your first time to Donut Mill or something?
No.
Why were you up there if you don't
No,
mind me
every
asking?
every time I drive between like Edmonton
Yeah.
and Otafest, so usually Edmonton and
Wow.
Calgary.
Wow.
The city of
Usually
Calgary-
for
the city of
Anime-thon or
Calgary
Taste of Anime-thon,
Is merely
I
secondary.
stop by the donut mill.
The city of Calgary is merely secondary to it as being the host of Otafest.
We are the city of Otafest that just so happens to be called Calgary on.
Yeah, the municipality
Let's
of
be real.
Calgary within Otafest.
We're just the city
But-
of Otafest. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
But there was actually a reason. I wasn't going to Edmonton. I was going to the donut mill because there are some online friends that I had. One was from Texas,
Ooh.
Mm.
one was from Edmonton,
Ooh.
and one was from Red Deer.
Huh.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, Texas friend is in Edmonton for a couple months. Let's all meet in the middle.
Mm.
We've known each other for like 2 years now. Let's go have some goddamn donuts.
Well, dang.
Yes.
Mm.
And it was wonderful. It's as I tweeted out about it, it's meeting old friends for the first time.
Mm.
It's
That's good.
really fun. It's really nice.
Aw.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat about Donut Mill. We typically only really went. I don't go to Edmonton very often at all. I don't have too many reasons to do so, other than like something to do, sort of. But like every time, we usually stop off in Gasoline Alley to the Donut Mill, which is always a nice little trip. The donuts are good. I'm actually not a huge donut fan, but recently I've been getting back into donuts. I just like a nice yeast donut. I'm not a huge fan of cake donuts, but yeast donuts, and then
Can I
know.
get cake
Donuts.
donuts?
cake donuts are too dense for me. Like,
What do you mean by cake donuts?
so there's two types of donuts. One is a yeasted donut, which is like your standard, if you get a chocolate dip donut,
Oh, okay.
or any type of like, let's say even the Boston creams or strawberry
Those are
filled.
deep fried, right?
Well, donuts by
They're not
exactly
deep fried,
definition are
they're
deep
more
fried.
like They're like floated in the
if
oil.
I
you-
thought the
more than
cake ones
anything.
weren't deep fried.
That's but like that's like your standard yeasted donut is always deep fried, and then I believe cake donuts are baked, and then like bagels are baked, but they're also boiled.
Yes.
Anyways,
Okay. That's a pretty strong distinction.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up for
but
me.
I specifically prefer like the airiness of like a good yeasted donut more than a cake donut. I feel like if I wanted cake, I'll just get cake. You know.
So, if I wanted a donut and I was here in Calgary, I actually wouldn't know where to go other than Tim Hortons.
There's like
Oof.
3 or 4 major donut shops around here.
Yeah, I'd say
Are
so.
there actually some
Yeah.
good ones? Because like I was having the Donut Mill donuts yesterday, and I had one with like just a chocolate glaze on it.
Hell yeah.
And one thing that actually stood out to me, and this should not at all be novel or interesting or something to talk about, but like the chocolate glaze, a flake of it came off and I tasted just that, and I was like, wow, that actually tastes like chocolate. Whereas the last time I was at Tim Hortons, the glaze and almost all of the donut was just sickly sweet, like just pure sugar,
Oh, yikes.
no flavor,
Yikes.
just disappointment, you know?
Oof.
Well,
Well,
Timisonuts are okay.
I have gone to Holy Cow for gelato and donuts, and they
Oh.
are quite good.
Oh,
Speaking of real quick interjection, speaking of gelato, they're opening up an Amato Gelato near my place. I'm so stoked.
Oh,
Oh my.
my.
Amato Gelato is
Oh
the place in
my.
like Kensington. For people who don't know, they have probably like about 50, 60 flavors of gelato, something crazy like that. They're all good. They're all made in house. I love them. They're really good.
nice.
I have been frequenting Noto Gelato because it's very close to work.
Nice.
I don't know of that one.
Really tiny little shop, very classic flavors available. They do have a bunch of like dairy free and vegan choices as well, which is really nice. Yeah, fantastic. They also have like a stamp card, so you know I'm after that 10 stamps.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm
Gotta
I
get
don't
that 11th gelato
I
free.
don't know if Amato has a stamp card, but I really hope they do, because one of the flavors that they have that's one of my sort of like low key favorites. Like I'm not gonna go for it every time, but it's because they have the distinction of having it. They have a good durian flavor, which
Whoa.
hits me.
Okay. I want to
Just
tell
right.
you about durian. So, recently, a place opened up on Center Street that I believe I told you about, Jay, called Sugar Marmalade. And I was like, we should go.
Yeah, we should
they
go.
have, Hong Kong style dessert things.
Mhm.
And someone, last time I was there, ordered a durian sago.
All right,
And you could smell it.
that's good.
Oh my.
So it was, not fake stuff.
do you
at
like durian?
least. I am undecided.
Okay.
I am straight undecided because while I agree the smell is not very nice, it's not the way it tastes.
I've never had it. I've only ever heard that, like Nancy says, it's got a hell of a smell, but
Sure
that's not
does.
how it tastes.
I
do.
like it a lot. I grew up eating it a little bit. I remember like the first time it was like definitely like, this thing smells weird, but I like the texture. Texture is a big part of it, and I know texture throws people off a lot too. So it's like I can understand it, but I really do like the flavor. It's like the creaminess of the texture and everything.
So they have a couple of desserts that involve durian, so maybe we should go for a podcast episode one day.
Sure.
Going to eat food for the podcast? Hell yes.
Hell
yeah.
yes.
You know what? The last time we ate food in service of the podcast was, I think, about 2.5 years ago when
Yep.
we were talking about getting the three of us up for a podcast and we went to a ramen bar.
Mm.
We also did KBBQ, I think. Yeah, we did.
Did we do KBBQ for the podcast? I think that was just to hang out.
It was an immediately before or something like that.
I don't know if it was for the podcast, but food was involved. Gay barbecue was involved around the time of podcast, so that's fine.
It was
True.
tasty as heck.
True.
But yeah, definitely on the destination list for the podcast crew.
Fair enough. That sounds like a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
always down for new things, trying new things. I tried a new ramen place that's near my place as well. There's so many new places opening up near my new restaurants opening up in my area. I'm super happy about it as usual. But like,
Nice.
there's a new ramen place that opened up last week. It's like it is a Japanese chain, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. Pretty sure it's like, well, I don't know if it's Japanese chain. It might be from like Vancouver or something, but it's called Ramen Taka.
I have not heard of them.
Yeah, it was. I had like a spicy miso. It was pretty good, standard spicy miso. But the thing is, there's a lot of competition in this area, so they need to like rise above. I think they're pretty good, but I still have like my favorite, which is another chain, Jinya.
Is Jinya a chain?
Jinya. I've heard of
Jinya's
that.
a chain.
I didn't know they were a
think
chain.
from Vancouver.
Oh, I had
But
no
yeah,
idea.
I
I just
love
knew
them 'cause
that
they
where
do
they
the-
were down in Mission.
They do the big garlic flavor noodles.
The
It's good
big
stuff.
garlic.
Yeah,
Oh,
huge
that
garlic
black
flavor.
garlic is so
Yes,
strong.
It's so good.
Definitely for garlic lovers. That one.
Dio is just
But
like we've eaten
but
there.
you know what we all hate? We all hate trying a new food place and being horrifically disappointed.
Yes,
Yes.
but it happens.
So-
You can't just swear off trying new food either.
Oh no.
No, absolutely. Like sometimes you want to go for the old favorites, but every now and then
Mhm.
it just it rewards you to try something new.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
The other night was not such a night for me and Dio.
Unfortunate.
We were browsing through the delivery app menus, being like, what do we want? What are we really feeling? And then we saw it. We saw the name emblazoned across the screen.
Blazoned, he says.
420 burger. And we were like, man, that name alone makes us want to click it. And click it we did. Click it we did. And we browsed their menu, and Dio ordered herself a chem dog. A dog with chemicals or something. It was a dog with like melted cheddar, onion, ketchup, mustard, sauerkraut. Like, yeah, a good sounding, but a little bit unusual hot dog. Okay. I ordered myself a kick-ass chicken sandwich with crispy chicken, white kimchi, fried kimchi, house-made kick-ass sauce, fresh lime, Korean barbecue. Does not contain explosions, car chases, or fists fight, it says on the menu.
Boo.
Well,
I also got myself some nice garlicky rosemary fries, and she ordered herself a pretty awesome gelato shake.
a gelato shake? That sounds amazing.
A gelato shake. A
That
gelato
sounds
shake. It might have
rightly
been
amazing.
It might have been amazing. So we ordered, we waited, we looked, we beheld our bag of goodies, and a gelato shake was not in it.
Aw,
There was no
Aw.
gelato
I've
shake.
never had that
that
happen.
is so
but-
disappointing. Did they
but-
refund you at least?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. But the point remains, you wanted the gelato shake.
Yeah.
But the gelato shake wasn't there. The chicken burger was there. The chem dog was there. The fries were there. So I bit into my burger, and I enjoyed the chicken sandwich. It was all right. The chicken was not dry. It was well seasoned. Very enjoyable. Dio said she enjoyed her hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got to my fries, my garlicky rosemary fries.
Now, for the record, rosemary garlic fries sounds really amazing to me.
The flavor I have no complaints about.
Okay.
My complaints are the fries that were so hard that they were stabbing literally
They
right through my
ruined
cheek.
potatoes.
Yeah.
In my
Yikes.
mouth and then out of my
How
cheek.
did they find
Oh.
a way to ruin potatoes?
So
That's an
I
actual
don't
crime.
understand. In UK they call fries chips, and quite frankly, I feel like there was a misunderstanding somewhere. Just because the UK calls them chips, don't mean that you deep fry them so long that they literally become solid potato javelins that you are stuffing into your mouth. They're not supposed to be rock hard. They're not supposed to be literally spears
Spearing.
of
Yeah,
spud.
they're supposed to be crunch,
Spear
but not
spuds.
Crunch on
only
the outside,
crunch.
soft on the inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
So
so
that sounds
they
to
were
me like a
clearly
recipe
overcooked.
for a disaster, but also a recipe for canker sores, because anytime I get like a scrape or like a stab from really crunchy, sharp foods, it turns into a canker sore. And that is just nightmare town for Nancy, because that means I can't enunciate properly for like a week and a half afterwards.
Yeah. Like for me, that it didn't bother me that much. I was more offended by the fact that somehow these people had overcooked potatoes to that degree. But like, I can imagine someone who doesn't have freaking cow leather on the inside of their cheeks. That could I was being hyperbolic by saying they literally stabbed through the side of my face. But I might, for some people, that could be the fact of the matter. That could be the truth. That could not be very far off. And I was just, every bite was just, what is going on here? How could this happen? Why? How?
I feel like we're making
That is
people
super
hungry with food
disappointing.
talk.
I'm sorry. There's nothing more disappointing than like having these fairly open but, optimistic expectations about tasty food and having them completely failed.
I mean,
Yeah.
it happens. Like sometimes it's like the delivery aspect as well, which is like tough. I've gotten some incredibly bad delivery food from places I know that have okay food or whatever, but just the delivery aspect was crap. And again, you shouldn't not try new food or even re-give a chance to certain places if, the first time was bad. But I definitely know that first impressions are, a major part of your food interaction with a new restaurant. And if they are the no bueno the first time, it's hard to go back. Like, it's hard to want that place's fries again, even if the burger would be good.
So while ruining fries really sucks, I do like to give places a second chance. Unless it was so bad, like I got bad food poisoning or something completely irrevocable, that I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
So I've actually had the opposite happen, where the first time I ordered from a restaurant was amazing. It was perfect. It was exactly what I wanted.
Oh no.
And then the second time was just so
no.
disappointing that I was like, man, what happened here? What's going on?
That's even worse, because now your expectations were set high because you had a good experience.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But you have to let people you have to face people with disappointment after telling them like how great something else was. So that way, like we were hyping people up on donuts, but now we're like, no, you don't want to eat anything. Let's be real. Everything is horrible. Don't eat.
I
any
want
of
milkshake actually. Now that you were talking about Dio's missing milkshake, which is like sad, but now I'm legitimately being like,
you have to go get a fantastic milkshake to adventure.
I'm not getting a fantastic milkshake, but I am going to go to Dairy Queen.
I was expecting you to at least say, I'm going to go to Peter's to get a milkshake.
Peter's is far. You're silly.
Well, I guess
Also,
you're earning that milkshake.
Peter's doesn't deliver.
They do not. And also, I'm not sure how that milkshake would be if they did deliver it to you.
Fine. Peter's doesn't deliver. That is the statement. It is.
Well, it would be more milk than it would be shake. But
Yeah.
that's okay sometimes.
Like,
sometimes that's what you need.
I wonder who
Fair.
else does milkshakes around me. I'm going to Google.
Man, speaking of other this is really the disappointment episode, isn't it?
oh
No.
dear.
No.
No?
We started with disappointments. We started with donuts, and then we
First
got to
of all,
disappointments.
yeah, it didn't
now-
start off as a disappointment, which is exactly like what we're about to talk about in this.
Okay. So, last week,
Uh-huh.
I got to attend a pre-screening event for the new Netflix adaptation of Cowboy Bebop.
Right.
And I reserved a lot of opinions Like, I basically, when we got the invitation, it was like, please feel free to tweet about this on social media, but no screenshots of the actual episodes.
No spoilers.
But feel free to, like, you know, take photos of the event before and after. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
That makes sense.
I did tweet about, you know, the event. I was excited about it. So I tweeted about the fact that I was excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said absolutely nothing afterwards. And I think
Oh no.
people were expecting me to at least have, I don't know, reaction tweets or like something. I needed to talk about it. I just said, woo, Cowboy Bebop event launch, go!
Right.
And that's it. That's all they got from me. I said nothing afterwards. And I have a reason for that. I only got to see it like the day before launch anyway, so it wasn't like a very, very advanced launch event or anything. But I wanted to hold my silence for that extra day.
You wanted to give people hope. You wanted to build up their expectations so that you could watch with a coffee in hand, sipping it through a crazy straw as their dreams came crashing down.
It wasn't bad. Is it the best thing ever?
It wasn't good.
Here's the thing. There are 3 components that I think you can identify about the whole thing, which is number 1, there's casting. Number 2, there's art direction. And number 3, that's the actual adaptation, like how you scale the adaptation from X source to new show or whatever. I think the casting was great.
Okay.
Casting was fine. I have nothing to say bad about the casting.
I think it was
No.
fun. I
And
think
for,
it was
for the record,
yeah.
the fact that the music was being done by Yoko Kanno was perfect. There was absolutely
that would
nothing for me to
art
talk
direction.
about music-wise.
Yeah.
I actually have one thing to say about the music.
Oh?
So, to be fair, I only watched the first episode and like 5 minutes of the second episode.
Okay.
One thing that really I felt was that they had like 2, maybe 3 original music tracks for this series.
Mhm.
And when they used those, it was actually perfect. The music was good. It suited the scene. Everything about that was great. But throughout the entire rest of the episode, they kept inserting tracks from the original OST in places that it didn't really feel right.
So here's the thing.
It felt like they were just slapping them down,
like-
dropping them anywhere.
Like
where there
I
was a
was
moment of
saying,
silence.
there's 3 components to it. One of them is the casting, which we said, like, it's like from what we've seen so far, it's pretty good. Like it has
I liked the casting.
the right cast. The actor who plays Jet Black is like
Perfect.
absolutely perfect. I loved him.
Mustafa Shakur.
Yeah,
Is that it?
it was amazing.
Yes.
Number 2
He was
art direction, and they have a lot to like it's tough because Cowboy Bebop is
The
a very
set design was amazing.
artistically sophisticated sort of art style, and you know they do a lot of what is it like? What's that style of the one art? I'm not gonna get too deep into it. People know what I'm talking about because Cowboy Bebop. But they have like that.
I don't know what you're actually talking about.
They have a certain look that they're trying to achieve, not just like from the set design and the costume design, but like just
There is a certain retroness to it.
yes, it's like a
Are you saying that it's like the genre, the art genre, or the visual genre is like sci-fi noir or something of that nature?
there's a lot of
Or-
intertwining sort of I guess influences that make up what Cowboy Bebop the original was, and they've had to make that real into a live action style. And from what I've seen, like I thought the CGI was fine. I thought the green screen stuff was fine. I thought again costume design and most of the music was pretty good. I mean, the music sounds good. I think that there's the insertion of music where it's kind of weird, but that sort of bleeds into the third point, which is how do you adapt an anime to live action, especially a live action Western audience show? And I think that's where some of the problems are. Maybe it gets better later on as like people just sort of settle into it. But like one of the biggest things is dialogue. I think that stands out because unfortunately,
Yeah.
You know,
anime dialogue is not TV show dialogue.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I may get some flack for this, but they went way too anime with this. They went so anime that I feel like for the dialogue, they probably wrote it in Japanese first. And then they found some fansubber off the internet and was like, hey, Mr. Fansubber, please translate this script for us. And then they used that script and handed it to the actors and been like, here are your lines. Change nothing.
I'm trying to think of some scenes where that may have been, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I can see that. Some of the dialogue, depending on the scene, is either cheese campy or fine. Like, I feel like it's one or the other when you're looking at the dialogue. And where the dialogue is fine, yes, it actually does sound, it sounds like TV dialogue that you would hear in modern day. But for the cheese camp lines, I was like,
yeah,
that was something.
A little bit like over the top delivery. A little.
There was so much that they did perfectly that every time they missed their step, it was so obvious. Like in the dialogue, there was some fantastic dialogue. There was some dialogue that called back to like the movies, the anime, word for word.
Totally.
Sometimes the delivery was perfect. Sometimes it was campy. But overall, it felt like how perfect some of it was made the campy parts just stick out like a sore thumb. And I feel the same way about the action too. There were certain scenes where the action would be great for like 2 or 3 seconds. But then you would get something silly that would just take you right out of it.
Yeah.
In the opening scene, in the first like 10 minutes, they blew a hole in the side of a space station and a guy was getting sucked out of it. And it looked like everything else around him was kind of good, but the CG that was like CG coins flying around, bouncing off the actor's face, it didn't look like the actors expected it to be there at all. Like it had no impact. And then there was a guy who got sucked out. It looked like they just dragged him across a green screen floor and then superimposed that over the video. And it looked like something that you would expect out of like a CMV or like a cosplay skit or something of that nature. And it just takes you out of the moment and you're like, what are they doing?
What happened here?
Look how they massacred my boy.
So I have long been probably a very newbie level, but I really appreciate cinematography. And the camera work was like half great. Like there were some really genuinely amazing shots. There's a shot where Spike just kind of pieces out and says, I'm going out. And he's opening the hangar doors. And that shot is amazing. It's dead on. They got the Dutch angle just right for that one. It was perfect. Beautiful colors. And then they have camera work that looks kind of like what happens when someone in high school tries to replicate Frank Miller, Sin City, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, no.
And that's the thing. Like, that's part of them leaning too heavily into, like, the anime part of it, I find. And it's crazy because everything they do well is so competent that you have to start thinking, everything that sticks out like a sore thumb, how did no one see this? How didn't they do anything about
I think
it?
it's
I have to feel that it was intentional.
It's the classic problem of adaptations, which is like you either make something that's too far from, like, it fits the genre, which again is like a Western live action TV show, better.
It's a
but
space
then it's
Western.
straight. But then it's no. I'm just talking about like audiences and like the expectations of each genre, and it's just like the idea that if you go one way, which is like it fits the genre better, but it's too far from the original source, then the original source people aren't happy. But if you go to the original source too hard, which again, anime adaptations, live action adaptations of anime delivered lines don't really fit that well, then you're going to upset the people who are like, well, I wanted a better, more cohesive sort of American style show. So you don't, you can never appeal to both sides.
You're right, where when it comes to anime adaptations, you have to decide which audience you're catering to. Are you going to go and please the fans who want everything to be exact, or are you going to try to pull new people in who expect a certain thing? And you can make that argument that, yeah, they were trying to balance that and maybe they just failed. But there's a difference. There's a difference between saying, yeah, it's just not a good adaptation versus it's actually not good. And I'm going to take a different scene from a different piece of media, a different adaptation entirely, to illustrate that point. In Avatar, The Last Airbender, the live action one, there was this one awesome scene where you had a bunch of, like, a group of Earthbender guys.
Wait,
they were doing
what?
this awesome dance.
I don't know what
They
you're
were,
talking
like,
about.
The Avatar live action movie.
That doesn't exist. There is no live action movie.
Oh, right. There were these...
Angelo once
imagine
hallucinated.
if there was this band of awesome Earthbender dudes.
Yeah.
They were doing this magic dance, and they were, like, going to like, really hit the bad guys with this awesome display of their earthbending magic. And they did the dance. And then, like, a boulder the size of a soccer ball
slowly floated its way across the screen.
Snoots forward at walking speeds to go towards the bad guys.
Yeah, I've seen... So I actually can't bring myself to watch that movie, but I
haven't watched it either. I've seen that scene.
Clips.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've seen
And
that
it's
clip,
like-
and it's painful.
Of course, the movie is a bad adaptation, but the Avatar movie is also just bad.
Yes.
You can be both. In fact, if you are bad, you probably are a bad adaptation. I think there's very few anime where being bad.
If
would
you're
be
bad, you're
faithful to
bad.
the
Got
source
you.
material.
That adaptation was bad in very many respects, whereas for Cowboy Bebop, I feel like there are very specific elements that are very out of place. So the camera
Having
work,
that said,
the camera work was definitely some of it. The dialogue was definitely some of it, but it didn't all suck.
so you guys saw the second episode. You saw the big shot scene, right?
Yeah.
So in the original anime, usually at the end of the anime, they would have this little scene, like a TV show within the TV show called Big Shot.
Yes.
And it was by these two cowboy characters who were absolute caricatures of the cowboys. And in the Netflix live action style, it translated perfectly. Perfectly. The cringy dialogue, the outfits, the character design, the actor that they had to play the one cowboy had the exact same voice inflections. It was absolutely spot on.
They did.
And it fits so good because, like, it was supposed to be campy.
Uh-huh.
It was campy. It was just absolutely perfect. It was the best part of the show as far as, like, accuracy went, and also it was actually pretty enjoyable. It's pretty enjoyable.
So,
good news for you. There's more of them later. I'm not done
Of course,
the
there
series
should
yet,
be.
but
There should be a little bit. There should be like one of those every episode.
yeah, there's sprinkled in everywhere.
so serious question.
Uh-huh.
What's the best adaptation out there? Whether it's to a movie,
The best adaptation.
from whatever source to, new thing. What is the best adaptation?
So, sorry, I'm just going to derail very slightly. Speaking of adaptations, Cowboy Bebop was not the only new show that I watched this weekend when I wasn't dying from a migraine. Wheel of Time is a beloved fantasy series for me when I was a kid because I was reading this for a very long time before it was ever adapted into something.
Mm-hmm.
This must be what it felt like when all the Tolkien fans got Lord of the Rings, because
Right.
I very much feel like this is probably what it was like for someone who knew the source material well, watched an adaptation, and just picked it apart in their heads. So only 3 episodes are out at the moment for Amazon Prime Video. I have seen the 3. I have lots of floating question marks over my head regarding the show because I don't know where they're going with some of these changes that they've introduced, like some maybe not world-breaking changes, but they changed the characters, I think, quite a lot. They changed a lot of
the characters. Thank you.
The world building was quite also different.
They adapted the world.
So I understand when people say now to me, they look at Lord of the Rings and they tell me, oh, but that's not how Tolkien wrote it, and this and that. And the thing that really bothered me about this was possibly the way the adaptation itself was modernized. Like, I feel like in Lord of the Rings, they did a really good job with keeping that fantasy look and feel, because the characters had, clothing that actually looked like it was from a fantasy era. There weren't nice modern textiles. Their coats didn't look that way, And like in Wheel of Time, I felt like the costumes, the hair, a lot of the haircuts looked a little too modern. Some of them just kind of looked like dude stepped out of a mall like 5 minutes ago. Or like some of the clothing just looked a little too modern, considering they are from like a very purist fantasy world. So I don't know. I have questions, I have feelings, but we'll leave that for another time.
So what's the best adaptation?
It's hard for me to pick a best. Off the top of my head, adaptations I would have enjoyed. Like Nancy said, Lord of the Rings was a fantastic adaptation from the novels. It's not 100% accurate. Trying to accurately adapt from the novels would have been stupid.
Yeah, there's too much. There's just too much.
The pacing would have been all over the place if you had.
God, there's so many songs. Oh,
and I mean, like,
those
ones. Movies are 20 years old now. They look great. They hold up. They will introduce so many people to the world of Tolkien who might otherwise have never even given it a second thought.
Here's the thing I loved about the Lord of the Rings movies. They used the exact dialogue from the books. The way Gandalf speaks is the way he spoke in the novels. But in Wheel of Time, they've introduced sort of this odd, like, modernization, and they've also made everyone more crass. There's a lot more swearing going on. There's a lot more really, really rude sex jokes in there.
So it was kind of like the Leonardo DiCaprio adaptation of Romeo and Juliet.
Ooh.
I actually kind of enjoyed that one.
We had to watch that
still use the
junior
actual
high school.
Shakespeare lines?
They actually did use the Shakespeare lines.
Okay, so no.
It was a great juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Like in this case, they have modernized the dialogue into like kind of an HBO level dialogue, and it was just very weird to me. In my head, I know how these characters speak. I know what they sound like. For the most part, these characters are not doing that dialogue justice. They're not even cursing
Very
the way
fair.
they did in
I
the
gotta
books.
say that, like, for my money, I think the best two adaptations from any given source, I really like the Castlevania series on Netflix. I think that's a great interpretation of what like the video game like world is, and the interpretation of that story. The art is fun. The characters are eccentric enough. The other one, which is maybe weird, I really like Detective Pikachu. It's an adaptation in the sense that like it's certainly it crosses a border of like the animated / video game world. It's a little unorthodox, which is fine.
I wouldn't call that an adaptation.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an adaptation because it was a new story.
No,
it's a brand new
you
story.
You guys just never played Detective Pikachu, which is an
world.
actual video game.
Oh,
I have not played it.
Detective Pikachu is an
incorrect.
actual game.
It is an adaptation.
So
did it directly adapt the story of Detective Pikachu?
Yeah.
To a certain extent, yeah.
To a certain extent.
I mean,
What
yeah,
does that
it's
mean?
not
Was that
Ryan
certain
Reynolds
extent
playing.
The idea of having a Pikachu with a hat.
Yeah,
Did it go anywhere beyond that?
I never played the game.
Without spoiling the movie for anyone who may not have seen it, does the ending also happen? Is that who he ends up being?
Apparently, Jay doesn't know.
I
He
didn't
said he
play
never
the
played the
game.
game.
Oh, then...
So Jay doesn't even
But
know.
it's but you guys didn't even know that the game existed, and you called it not an
Nope.
adaptation. It's absolutely an adaptation.
I thought it was a brand
mean-
new story, actually. So, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim. I liked the movie adaptation for Scott Pilgrim.
You know
Scott
what?
Pilgrim's a
That
pretty
might
good
be
one.
one of the best adaptations.
I loved that
It's-
movie. The cinematography was spot on. The scripting was spot on. The editing was spot
The
on.
story is
The music.
lacking. The story is lacking from the actual books. But that being said, you kind of
They
don't
had like 2 hours.
No, it's not just that. You kind of don't want certain aspects from the books into the movies. Like the characters are just so much worse people. That's sort of the story of Scott Pilgrim. Like you think the movie is all nice and poppy and cool because that's how they portray it. But the truth of Scott Pilgrim as like a overarching like story and series is that it's just a bunch of regular kind of crappy kids, you know,
Who are growing up.
who growing up together in a sense. So
They're figuring out what it is to be themselves and be grown-ups.
Yeah.
But I like that features prominently. And like, again, for an adaptation, you only have so much time and you have to cut things out of it. So yeah, I absolutely agree that some of the character depth isn't there.
mhm.
A lot of these people have, you know, they don't have a whole lot exposed from their personality, their inner thoughts.
Mhm.
You know, certain characters are relegated to the main character's ex-girlfriend or whatever. But I think they did a great job with that. Like, that is by far one of the most reviewed movies that I have in the house. Like, I will just put it on all the time just as background
It's just
noise.
such a visual treat.
It's so good. I can appreciate so much about it from a technical standpoint.
It's definitely a very fun
I
movie.
just- It's so quotable too. It's like, Scott earned the power of self-respect.
Scott has earned
Ah.
the power of love.
My favorite is still just the scene where Knives Chow
Bread
visits
makes
his
you
house
fat?
and his roommate covers for him while he's just ducking and dodging and then jumping out the window.
Yes.
I don't know why that's
but
like
I
one of my
think
favorite
it's time
scenes,
for
but
us
it's
to
very
dive out the
it's
window.
very memorable. But yeah, I mean,
Yes.
it's so good adaptations exist. They are gems, rare gems. I can't fault Cowboy Bebop for falling in out of rare gem territory into it could still be fun and there's no harm in watching it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a rare gem on the opposite side of the spectrum.
I don't think it's that bad, but okay, you're allowed to have your opinion.
I mean, I have not finished watching the entire series. My opinion could change.
I mean, Angelo only watched the
By the
first
time I
episode.
get to the end of the
only
season.
watched the first episode and like 5 minutes of the second, so I shouldn't be as harsh as I am. I'm just a little bit,
Taken aback?
a little bit surprised, if you will.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to give it that chance. I will watch it all the way to the end of the season, and then I will have a firm opinion on what it is. To me.
All right.
I'm sorry, Angelo isn't here anymore. He just left.
Who's here?
Angelo must be out getting his fat burger. Speaking of which, I guess it's time for me to go get sushi.
I'm going to go get a milkshake.
Good night, everyone.
Go get some food.
Bye.
Bye.